there's this whole concept of like trust the experts, right? But what we've learned over the past 20 years, or as we've all woken up on whatever timeline that is the experts are by and large lying. Whether it's malicious and intentional or not, that's a separate conversation to be had on like an individual basis. I've never worked in media, but I did live in DC for 12 years and I know a lot about how the intel agencies work. And just because something is local or said by somebody like specific that you're told to trust, that doesn't mean that it's not a lie. Whether they're participating in the lie or not, it doesn't matter. It doesn't make it truth. So I think it's not a matter of like, oh, have you had this career? Do you have this degree? I mean, that's credentialism, which I think is not something we support. Where in Bitcoin, we trust proof of work. Credentialism is proof of stake, and I'm not into it.
We don't have to be a journalist to decipher truth. And to Michelle's point, we have witnessed during how we were all lied to explicitly and clearly by these so-called experts. That's not okay, and we shouldn't allow that to happen at any point. We should give these journalists a hard job. They have a hard job to do, and they should do it with intent, not taking their lines from on high. And that's what we've seen. We all know it, and it's time we call it out and use platforms to do so.
So the truth doesn't mind being questioned.
So, end the FUD, shaping Bitcoin narratives. You know, to me, beyond just being a Bitcoiner and beyond just dealing with the concepts that you see in the headlines about Bitcoin, there are a lot of skills that someone, I think, develops or needs to develop as they become a Bitcoiner. And it's so important, beyond just Bitcoin, to be able to like address FUD, to be able to address, you know, in other words, misrepresentations, or as they like to call them, misinformation, disinformation, etc. So I wanted to give one quick example, and I'm going to open up to these great panelists over here. You know, a lot of people in this room I can see are older than me, no offense. It's wonderful to be alive. But you will remember then, perhaps, something called the War on Terror, a phrase that gets said so rarely these days, but it's not something that I think has even officially ended. We still have, you know, active laws that permit our government to enact violence to try to pursue this war on terror. Now, after the United States was attacked on September 11, 2001, more than 20 years ago, we invaded Afghanistan, and this is not what I want to talk about. It's actually in 2003 when the United States starts developing a narrative that Iraq, the country of Iraq, which at the time was controlled by a dictator called Saddam Hussein, our government was trying to promulgate with the mainstream media that Iraq was actually involved with the 9/11 attacks, that the Iraqi government had been involved with Al-Qaeda in planning and enacting the 9/11 attacks and other forms of terrorism. And there was a specific event on some Sunday in 2003. I can't remember which Sunday, but the vice president of our nation, Dick Cheney, he goes on a bunch of these morning shows and he's got like, I've got this memo that was just released by the intelligence agencies, 19 or however many agencies. They say that someone from Iraq met with an Al-Qaeda operative in Paris. Oh no, we gotta invade Iraq. And the rest is history, right? We invade Iraq. That memo was a lie. The basis for the United States invading Iraq was a lie. But at the time, 2003, I hadn't even graduated high school yet. I'd been called un-American, a terrorist sympathizer, all kinds of horrible things at such a young age because I dared to question the narrative. Like they're not telling us the truth. And at a certain point, no one even cared why we were in the war anymore. It's just, we got to win it. So to me, that was a big wake-up call. That was a big wake-up call that we can't trust our media. We can't trust the media because the relationships they have with the government, because the relationships they have with their advertisers and other forces. So that was my example. But now I want to invite my wonderful panel who are sitting next to me. If you guys can think of something related to what I'm talking about, either a story that happened or some event that happened to kind of wake you up or to reveal to you like, wait a minute, I'm being fed stories that are not actually one, true, and two, they don't benefit me. They don't make me better. They don't make me better capable of handling and dealing with reality. So let me pass it off to, hey, Michelle, what's up?
What's up, guys? We all know it was an inside job, but that might be a different panel. No, I think this is really, really important. And I think a lot of the things that Jackie spoke about earlier are super important. I'm glad we can have this conversation. For me, one of the big things, I've always sort of questioned everything, but I think one of the biggest examples for me was I was living abroad in 2015, 16. I was not living in the United States when Trump initially ran for the presidency, and I was not active in politics at the time. I was living actually in Dubai. I was doing a lot of work in China, so I really didn't have very much exposure even to Western media, and I had no idea. What I knew about Trump was that he had the show that everybody loved, right? And sure, not everybody loved him, but that was sort of the end of it, right? He was a media personality. And I had no idea the sort of like psychological operation that was developing in the United States, and that it was becoming as polarizing as it was, and that you couldn't even question it. You couldn't have an honest conversation about it. So when I came back to the States, it was a huge wake-up call for me. I was just kind of like, oh yeah, like what did you think? Like, I don't care how you voted. I don't care if you like the guy, if you hate him, but I'm just honest, and like, man runs for presidency. Like that was kind of the opinion of a lot of people in Asia, and trying to help, right? He's giving up his life of luxury to be a civil servant. And I got like completely shut down and mocked and called a far-right extremist and all of these things. How people felt about the situation. It had become so black and white and so polar. It became exponentially more important to figure out, like, why can we not even big wake-up call for me.
So you've heard Bitcoin is the new gold rush by now. As world leaders on all sides have endorsed it as the future of money, and now you're looking to get started, we'll show you how. It's actually easier than you think. First, go to your nearest Byte Federal ATM and turn your cash to coin. Byte Federal has over 1,200 locations around the country with the highest daily limits. Go to our website, bytefederal.com, to find the nearest ATM to you. Log in to any wallet, then create an account, deposit your US cash, and instantly convert it to Bitcoin. That's it. We are the only US manufacturer and operator in the Bitcoin ATM industry, and our US-based live customer service is second to none. Go on, give it a whirl, and don't get left behind. Click the link below.